ABBA, 3. Testimonials, Questions and Answers. June 11, 2018. ABBA is present and greets each of you in the sacred space of his heart. Again, this day, we will walk together to try to answer your questions of any kind, perhaps allowing you to free yourself from certain weights that are no longer useful. Let us first of all welcome each other in silence, in the fire of love and truth. Silence. In this silence of peace of heart we welcome the first question. Voices. Who are these presences that appear during mergers and how to react? They disappear as soon as they are seen. Beloved, in what is called the fusion of love, alignment or any other term that suits you, a certain number of things are realized. Of course, as you say, some of you, at those moments, find yourself seeing or perceiving a certain number of elements. These elements can be of any nature, of any origin. In these moments, and especially in these moments, whatever it may present itself in front of you, even in a fleeting way, must in some way be loved and reabsorbed in your heart, then bringing you indelible proof that, whatever the element that presents itself in consciousness or form in front of you in these moments, is simply there, not to be observed, but much more to be absorbed in the fire of love. Thus, this lets you to realize that everything that may have seemed external to you until then, is, of course, inside you. Thus, by absorbing the image, the archetype, the consciousness or the form that is in front of you, you realize the most sublime fusion of love, consisting in rejecting nothing, separating nothing, seeing everything with the same look of love, so that this love may embrace what is seen, what is perceived, making it possible to put an end to the simulacra, to images, to gods, to entities, so that the silence of eternity may be lived in your heart in the lightest and most obvious way possible. This act of love, consisting in absorbing the other in his own heart, comes to enrich your own heart, not with another presence, but with the intensity of the same presence, allowing you to affirm, as I do, that you are me as I am you. This applies, of course, to each brother or sister in humanity with whom you enter into resonance, in a relationship of fusion, but also in the face of any scenario, any form, any archetype or any consciousness occurring within the same space, in the alignment of your heart, in the heart of the heart. So that's the way to go. Don't reject anything, don't weigh anything, don't control anything. To be righteous in this state of sacrifice, gift and unconditional acceptance of all that is presented, whatever its nature and whatever it is, for it is definitely in you, bringing you proof then, today, that what is inside is like what is outside, in order to perform the miracle of one thing, in order to perform the miracle of one conscience and one heart. As you know, we have all largely moved beyond concepts, ideas and beliefs to penetrate into the truth on the same level and in the heart. This truth, as you know, cannot be compatible with any image, any thought, any emotion. Simply, through the magnificence of the embracement, you realize the most dignified and noble service of the human being in incarnation. To love without respite, to love without ego, to love and only to love. At that moment, as soon as you understand this particular mechanism, then you become free. For you have shown yourself in this face-to-face encounter, that there is no difference between you and everything else, realizing that everything else is absolutely included inside your heart, ending the distance, ending the questioning. You have nothing else to do at such moments but to be present, not to try to understand, not to try to remember any symbol, shape or archetype, or consciousness, even present on earth or elsewhere. You don't have to identify her, she introduced herself because you were here. By being present, integration, the absorption of love, is done by resonance, is done by sympathy, is done by charisma, the true. Thus in this act of communion, love and fusion, you realize your essential nature which, of course, is only love, leaving room for no other thing, for no other event, for no other future or becoming and putting an end to all past, then inserting yourself into the grace of the eternal present moment, where you stand, where I stand, without holding us and yet, in total freedom, permanently communicating with truth, love, glory and beauty. Silence. Can you continue with the following question? Voice. Questions from a sister who is not there. There are 2 questions. Question. Yesterday, the trumpet's sound did in me, the body was like a huge resonance box without form. Can the trumpet sound in isolation in everyone? Beloved, in you, what is within, as well as what is without, is the same truth. Of course, the trumpets so named, the sounds of heaven as well as the sounds of earth, are obviously also present in you and indeed as you say, begin to resonate, to ignite you and to elevate you in the dwelling of supreme peace, where there exists no image, no thought, no concept and no future, bringing you and carrying you to the truth of your being, to the truth of your essence, connecting you to the non-being from where your being has come. So, living this, even if there is not yet any equivalence where you stand in your life, in the place where you are, it corresponds to the call of the Spirit, to the call of truth, asking you to lay down the arms of every fight, to place yourself as an offering and embrace to what you are. Because what's there is nothing but you. For what wakes you up with this inner sound is nothing more than your double knocking at the door, through Christ, through ABBA, through Isis. Where you stand, I am. Where you embrace me, I am. Where you open up, I open up. Where you receive me, I receive you. Between us, there is no distance, no difference, except in the appearance of the form, except in the appearance of your thoughts. You and I are beyond all things, working the miracle of only one thing, which is not one. This thing is love that takes all space, all time, and that comes to transcend and burn in the fire of eternal joy what still encumbers, what you think you are and yet you are not. For you situate yourself beyond all thoughts, beyond all dreams, beyond all forms and beyond all time and space. So be blessed, for by bending over this sound, you then realize the yoga of sound, leading you to tune yourself to the alignment of your heart, in the heart of the heart, then allowing you to taste the nectar of life, the nectar of the Lord. Which you certainly are now that you see me. You see yourself as you see me. Silence. As you can see, in the manner of Master Ram, today you have the answer of words, the verb, and the answer of silence. The response of silence as well as the response of words now has the same impact on your resonance and presence, leading you to experience the evidence with astonishment. Silence. Can you continue? Voice. Second question from the same sister. Testimony. Listening to Bida talk from the center of the forehead, I felt a pain in my heart, like a spear blow, and the same thing in the center of both hands. Triangular circuits were formed between the forehead, hands and heart, alternately, with white flames on the right and left, at the front of the head. Voice. It's just a testimony. Allow me, in relation to your testimony, to bring some elements, not to explain to you what is being experienced, it makes no sense, but much more for those who will read or hear your testimony. The heart has joined the head and the head has joined the heart from now on. The awareness of Christ present in every true man allows him, of course, to live many elements. These elements are beyond form now on, even if they still exist, and are printed directly in your flesh, giving you to live the bite of love at the level of matter, giving you to live the resultant, which is this white paradise, this immaculate whiteness prior to any form or creation, called the source. Thus, then, you find yourself, in your forehead, in your heart and your hands, animated by the breath of the Spirit, by the breath of truth, by the source itself. Thus, therefore, by living this, you give yourself the greatest gift of all, that of your found eternity, in manifestation for the moment in this illusory world. It is your presence and this experience which, by itself and through the intelligence of Source and Light, achieves the finalization of the great work within the earth, allowing us to return to what was, as before the form, before form and before the presence of consciousness. in this immutability, in this point of support that supports all the other points of the manifestation and is therefore present in every point and in every form, there is the oath and the promise, the sacred fire, the one that cannot be extinguished even within oblivion, and that today finds all its verve, all its freedom and all its momentum. In that respect, you have nothing to do. In this, you have nothing to question, as you said, but simply to accept the evidence of the resurrection, the evidence of joy, the evidence of fire. Everything else does not need your person, everything else is only evidence of the presence and evidence of the light, the one before form, which knows neither form, nor limit, nor dimension. Silence. Can you please continue? Testimony. Where love is, there is no longer any need. These words, spoken distinctly by a being one morning when I woke up a few years ago, took on their full meaning, awakening what had always been hidden inside me. I was receiving a precious key that opened a path, even if there is no path. It was then, in everyday life, that love began to express itself in the little things and attentions to the other, the benevolence towards each other, taking a new look at each being that had become as precious as myself. Since then, everything has become grace, simplicity, fluidity, welcome, creating harmony and peace around me. Even my health has been restored. Sometimes, the person resumes a little, but very quickly, peace takes its place again. Today, I recognize myself love and recognize each one being love. There is no more distance, the heart takes up all the space. The dream ends in this illusion. All this for that, at last. We give thanks together for your words, because beyond the words you express with word and beauty, there is, of course, this evidence. So is love, it cannot be otherwise. Love is obvious because you are love, even if the veils of oblivion may have inclined you to think or experience something else. The lifting of the veils has been achieved, there is sincerely and objectively no longer any obstacle to this experience, except the person who believes he can live it, showing himself that whatever he says and does, the sacrifice has not been recorded. In your case, indeed, the keys are everywhere, in what you look at, in what you see, in what you hear, in what you think, and, in your case, in that old dream that was not one, that today becomes the reality. Love is everywhere, wherever you look, wherever you think. Each one is no longer external, but really and concretely internal to you, explaining then the benevolence, because there can be no other attitude towards anyone. For you realize then that the same love, in the same intensity, in the same radiance, in the same presence, is strictly identical, whatever the appearances of each one. Thus, is true love. All love that does not see this and that does not live this, is not yet inscribed in the truth of love, yet it is omnipresent. Remember that the music master created the score a long time ago, for each of you and for me, giving to live at the right moment, at the right time, what is to be lived for you. Feed yourself, for the one who does not live it, on everything that is lived by your brothers and sisters. As IDADE said, testimony is essential. All you have to do is testify, not to yourself, but to the light. The witness of the light in itself resonates for the one who does not experience this and lets him, whatever the anger or denial, to place himself extremely quickly in the same evidence, where there is nothing to do, where there is nothing to be, outside of that. Love takes all places, from the moment the person does not interfere. Whether it is through dreams, whether it is through waves, whether it is through sounds, whether it is through music, through images, through encounters with anyone, as with me, it makes no difference, because the result can only be the same in everyone. There is no difference, there will never be any more. The same love, the one that cannot be measured or dosed, the one that cannot be limited or confined. This is the only truth. Living this, what else do you want to live? Hoping for that, what else can you expect? Truthful, what can I say to you, if not to look at the smile on the lips of your brothers and sisters who are experiencing this, as well as the brightness of their eyes, as well as their beauty at any age, in any form whatsoever, in any deformity even, apparent, physical. It no longer matters, because love actually takes everything and leaves nothing, and as you said, all this for that. It had to be, because it was worth it and it is still worth it. This is timeless and yet it is happening at this time. Because, as you have been told, the time has come. It simply remains as you also said, this last path which is not one, which is the road of dream, the road of illusion, giving you to turn around, in order to see that even within the illusion, the truth is total, as soon as you accept that your presence in this world, as your body, as all the objects of this world as well as its myths, its gods, its religions, are nothing other than cinema which has no substance. Then yes, the dream becomes real, opening the new path which is not, as you say, a path, but the establishment in every path, in every place and in every place, of this absolute love, where nothing can be lacking, where nothing is superfluous, where everything is present. Living this, you live love. Living this, you're the truth. Everything else, which passes, will pass, and has passed, can no longer represent anything for the one who lives in the eternal present of love, depending neither form, nor on this world, nor on any world and, above all, prior to any history. Silence. We listen to you and hear you for the next question or testimony. Testimony. Lucifer, the light carrier, came along one day quite fortuitously as I was reading a few lines about him. I stopped reading after a few sentences, suddenly feeling the need to close my eyes and center myself. Slowly, I started crying without knowing why, then torrents of tears began to flow. The words have arrived. I forgive you, I forgive myself, for everything I don't understand, for what I couldn't do. It was about those words, because it's been at least 3 or 4 years. Then, like a storm moving away, everything became normal again, even lives, and I forgot this episode, before the name Lucifer was mentioned these days at the meeting. What I did not understand or seek to interpret then, makes sense today. I give thanks for your words. In the same way that I said that there is nothing to reject within love, beyond any explanation and understanding concerning one conscience or another, crying is liberating, because it allows you to reconnect to the essential, through all the archetypes, all the wounds and all the hopes of this world. Of course, there are historical, symbolic and concrete, but also archetypal elements that have accompanied your dream to its ultimate layers on this earth. Thus, you demonstrate by your words that there is no need to understand, no need to grasp, but much more to embrace without any difference everything that presents itself in consciousness, in archetype or in human. For it is in this love that you give and that you take in yourself, that the oath and the promise are realized. To recognize oneself in love is difficult to do in oneself, it is much easier to recognize oneself in the luck present in the other. Because you go beyond appearances, beyond the history of the person, whether you know him or not, and ignore everything that masks him, you go directly to the heart, where there is no more resistance, where there is no more obstacle, then by lifting the veils of the primary anomaly, to live this spontaneously and without there being any doubt about what is lived. Because the experience of love cannot leave the slightest trace or doubt and that it cannot be comparable to anything you have known during your peregrinations on the surface of this world, in any love whatsoever, in any connection within the spirit you may have lived, within the movements or in solitude. It cannot be compared, it cannot be measured. This is love, not the one that is apprehensible to you in this world and that you live at random and during your lives and encounters, but that are only there to illustrate the lack that is in you. Today, this gap is filled and will be filled more and more, as you know, putting an end to all history, putting an end to all notions of origin or end, replacing you in this abode of supreme peace that contains all the Father's houses and all his dwellings. The time of dream comes to an end, because the time of love has come and love will never be a dream, nor an adjective. It is perfect, beyond any adjective and beyond any improvement. There is nothing to change, there is nothing to improve, there is just to recognize it in oneself and in the other, with the same intensity. Thus, the testimonies of those who live, read by those who do not live it, beyond the feeling of being abandoned or frustrated, grasp even though by reading this, the other becomes you as you become me. It is the same effect, the same resultant, the same love. And even if you do not see it in the moment, be assured that where you have carried your eyes in those days, will come back to you, when the time comes, so that your heart will no longer be in any difference, whatever the form and whoever the person is, putting an end then, effectively and concretely, to the idea or the thought of being that person who is experiencing this. Thus, unconditional acceptance is created without asking for anything, without waiting for anything, without projecting anything, but simply in silence, in the silence of the prayer of the heart where words have no importance. Then the word rises in you, the breath of the Spirit comes to whisper to your dreams or in your heart, or then to your ears, or by giving you to see what you must see, brings you quite naturally to the door of this threshold, where it seems to you that there has never existed a threshold, as there has never existed a door. What was conditioned and which served as your support is now totally free and is offered to you, without any condition and without any possible conditioning, as well as without any reference to any past element, any lived element or any future whatsoever. For in love, in that, there is neither past nor future, there is no longer even a present moment. There is just the evidence that no time can be imposed. It just remains obvious, where no suspicion can appear. All that remains is the obvious, the one that lightens you up and takes your eyes completely out of them. So yes, in this, there is an offering. In this, there is welcome. The acceptance of the offering allows you to magnify your offering to the unknown, allowing you to be seen by all your sisters and brothers wherever they are on earth, leading you then, without wanting to live this new Eucharist where you are obliged to affirm with me, I am you, you are me, I see you, you see me. Because there is nothing else, because as soon as love is seen beyond form, there can be nothing left but love. This love cannot deal with any personal idea or construction in this world, for love calls love, it calls the truth, yet the truth is not of this world, the truth is in you. Love then calls you to this face-to-face encounter, to conclude it, to cross it without detour and without delay. So is love. You have nothing to direct, you have nothing to control, you have nothing to ask, you have nothing to expect. It is enough for you to realize that this has always been there, and that the separation was only an idea, a dream that only passes through, a dream that burns in the bonfire of love, where not only is there no more reluctance, but also where there is no future, no past, no time, then allowing you to be in any space in the ABBA house which, I remind you, has many dwellings that are all your dwellings. So find yourself as you were before origin and after all end. And this can only be done if you accept the unexpected, the unpredictable and the unknown, without request and without rancor, in order to understand and live that no story is of any use when love is true, and that everything else, outside love, cannot exist without the slightest love, even if you have not seen it. Love is life, love is silence, love is song, love is dancing, love is obvious wherever you look from now on. He's everywhere, and if you don't see him, then change your eyes and stop looking, and see. Because if you see, then you absorb. Because if you see, then you embrace. Do not turn your thoughts, eyes, hearts or ears away from anyone you meet in any situation, anywhere. Look at him, he's another you, both of you dreaming. Then in you, there is the possibility, by loving, to wake him up, which, in turn, will wake you up. Do not ask for anything for yourself, do not ask for anything for the other, just be the other as much as you think you are, to perform the miracle of love. As long as there is rejection, there can be no love. Misunderstanding does not block love, quite the contrary. Because love goes through misunderstanding, because love goes through everything. Everything that you think is dense, everything that you still think is opaque in you, is simply not at the same time as love. You don't have to worry about it, you just have to let what is grow, even if you don't see it, even if you don't live it. So yes, the best posture is that of peace and silence. For some, it is that of experience, of the passage of myths and archetypes coming from a collective way, even if it is individual, in action, making an offering to the whole of humanity. Whatever you live or do, whatever you don't live or whatever you don't do, it doesn't make any difference. As soon as you are in silence, as soon as you make peace first of all with yourself, not in what you know in that person's history, but to make peace with your double, the one you have not yet seen, the one you have not yet recognized, and yet he is in you from now on and has always been, even if within the dream he could appear to you, as has been said, a prisoner in the sun. It is only your adherence to the dream that prevents you from waking up, but this was foreseen, even before you began to dream, that the moment would come when the dream stops, the moment when love no longer allows the dream, the moment when love is no longer creative, but evidence of silence, where there is nothing to create, where there is nothing to make appear. So, standing there, you can say it with me. It's all done. Silence. I would like to remind you once again, during the silence of the obvious, there is no distance or difference between you and me. There is in me the same humanity, the same form, the same suffering, the same pleasures, the same wanderings, the same discoveries. What I'm going through, you're going through, even if there's a gap. But there is no more distance, it is impossible. Silence. Would you like to continue? Voice. Testimony of a sister who is present. Testimony. Yesterday, my body, without arms and legs, became the luminous central axis of the huge spinning top that was constantly spinning. This morning, when Jean-Luc said that the point of the sacrum and that of the head would join that of the heart, it was done, and the spinning top stopped turning and disappeared. What is spinning is the vortex of revelation. When this has penetrated and is revealed, then silence and immobility no longer need any movement to manifest love. There is no longer any need to express it, there is simply a need to testify, because all your presence at that moment becomes love. Again, no matter what you say and no matter what you do, it won't change anything. Love takes everything, it takes your senses, it takes your eyes, it takes your mouth, it takes your words, it takes your body to reach you, where there is nothing opaque, where there is nothing more to oppose, where the dream ends, where reason ends. There is no elsewhere, there is no after, there is no before, there is just that. It is in this that you can no longer be thirsty or hungry, that you can no longer dream, because the evidence is much more beautiful than all the dreams that can arise in this world as elsewhere. Silence. Can you continue? Voices. There are no more written questions at the moment. So we'll move on to your words, questions or testimonies. We're listening to you. Testimony. At the end of the previous answer, I came back because I had gone away, the only link was ABBA's voice and I realized that my head was on fire. And when? That she hit the next. Head on fire. And when I looked over my head, I saw the crown of Mary, part of it, everything was bright, except part. The crown of glory, the crown of eternity, where all that you are in manifestation as before manifestation, has thus been revealed. The coronation is not symbolic, it is very concrete. It is the one who illuminates the head and the heart at the same time, coming to show you where love is, in the light, but also before the light. It makes no difference here either. As I said, you will be more and more satisfied. Lightness and joy, here too, will take over your sufferings, your questions, your distances too. Because it cannot be otherwise in the intelligence of the light, because it cannot be otherwise with the truth which knows no dreams, no bargaining. So there is indeed a coronation which is not only the call, which is not only the fact of being a chosen one of anything, but this coronation is, in a way, the completion of what can no longer be, because it was passing, but you will never pass. Having accepted it even within your disappearances as well as your returns, then the crown of glory can girdle your forehead and head, because your heart has taken over any form of expression of the person, any form of history or claim. This is the liveness, this is the experience here in this world of the truth of love. Silence. Who wishes to express themselves? Question. I would like to have a clarification on a point. When it is said that it will be made to each one according to his faith, and also on the fact that in the house of ABBA, there are many dwellings, and when it is said that all creation would be uncreated or absorbed, I personally have the knowledge of a sister in faith who absolutely desires to live in a world of matter. What about her? Freedom no longer allows matter, freedom is love and truth. He who says this does not experience anything of love, whatever he says, whatever he talks about it. He who lives love can never, ever prefer matter or incarnation in any dimension whatsoever. This is impossible. So, it is obvious that he who today claims matter, claims a form, has understood nothing about love. It is only in the perpetuation of a dream, only in the projection. But that is not serious, because when it was said that it will be done according to your faith. Today, as a thought adjuster, I rectify this. It will be done to you only according to the truth and not otherwise. The truth, as I said, does not fit with any form. Love does not need a form. Of course, all those who today say this, whatever their experience, do not yet live love. It cannot be otherwise, for, as soon as true love, beyond the known, is experienced, there can be no attraction towards anything other than love. Understand therefore that it will not be done according to your faith, but it will be done to everyone according to the one truth that does not depend on any person, nor on anyone. Thus, these words made by such and such a brother, show only ignorance, fear and suffering. Even if there is greed for matter, these brothers and sisters do not know love, they have not recognized themselves, because whoever recognizes himself can never, ever, prefer matter to spirit. It is impossible. The sentence, "It will be made to you according to your faith," does not correspond to after, even if there are many dwellings in the Father's house which, as you have understood, are part of the dream, and which each conscience can borrow, but nevertheless, this cannot be the case within the flesh. My son told you, my kingdom is not of this world. I tell you, I have been on this world since its beginnings, while being everywhere. He who lives today that true love, the one truth, cannot wish for anything, he can only be, this love. So grasp well through what I say, that the desires of the person do not represent anything, because, in the end, there is no one. The one who pronounces these words knows nothing of love and, above all, he saw nothing of it, whatever he says, whatever he gesticulates and whatever he affirms. I repeat to you, the one who lives love cannot acclimatize to any form, any future, any becoming, any origin or any stellar lineage. Love takes everything. It is not an empty word, it is not a poem, it is not a wish, but it is the exact truth of everyone. The one who finds himself, whatever form it may take, no longer needs any form and, above all, to express any desire. Thus, then, you see it for each of you according to what is present in relation to the love in you, you know pertinently if you are free or not. From the moment there is a claim of form, from the moment there is a claim of understanding or explanation, it is never love, it is only the person, and you know perfectly well that you can only reach love if the person is no longer there. Grasp this, it has been repeated in countless ways, to prepare yourself for these moments. You're in the practice, you can't challenge anyone and even less the love that you are. You see it or you don't see it. But be assured that, whatever the moment, whether it is the event or any other event, whether personal or collective, when the time comes, which has come, there can be no hesitation. Only he who does not know the Spirit, only he who lives only love in this world, cannot accept, for the moment, that there is only love. All opposition is vain and null and void, because love is present from everywhere on earth, and no one can escape it, and no one can avoid it, whatever his desires, for I do not take into account the desires of the person, I only take into account the truth that is through the person. So of course, there are characters, stories and brothers and sisters who have put fear so far ahead of them that they've frozen themselves, by themselves and in themselves, with an impassable layer. But even those who today suffer and live nothing, for various reasons, will live the same love when the time comes. It is in this sense that there can be no other direction or path than that of innocence and childhood, than that of truth, which needs no form and, above all, no history. I repeat myself, whatever the multiplicity, in this world as in any other, there is only one heart, there is only one consciousness. This heart and consciousness itself are but an illusion of the first manifestation. The oath and promise, when it is actualized at the collective level, in any way whatsoever, cannot allow the slightest ignorance and therefore the slightest desire to persist. The intensity of love within this sacred kingdom, which is now the earth, from where everything started and where everything ends, cannot leave the slightest choice. For who would want to choose while living love? Only the one who does not live it can still decide that it is not true or turn away from it. But beware, it only lasts for a time, and that time is over in its entirety. What is happening from now on and in a few days' time, is irremediably beyond the time of this earth, giving you to live this simultaneity of the person who disappears and the love that takes all the place. And it cannot escape anyone, it cannot be otherwise. As I told you, history was written in advance, there were the different temporal frames used within materiality that could make you believe that there was a free will, a possibility of choice. But it concerns the person, but love can never choose. Why would love choose, when it is everything and it is everything? Only the limited, only the unliving, can speak like that. He is wrong, but he is not responsible or guilty. So, allow me to rectify, given the call of the earth and all the children, to definitively rectify this error. It cannot be otherwise. What has a beginning has an end, and what has an end, in the end, is not the end. There was never a beginning, only the person believes it. Because she herself has a beginning and an end inscribed between birth and death, and the veils of oblivion have left only faith and hope. Then, I could not say or have said that it will be done to you according to your truth, because the truth was not present, it could only be a question of faith and hope, and dream. Today, the truth is there. There will be less and less space for dreams. This is true freedom, where there is no choice, because everything is 100% safe. So when everything is 100% safe, what can you claim as a choice? What can you weigh or compare? This is valid within the illusion, but it is not valid, has never been valid, in the worlds of the spirit and in the human spirit. To love matter is a freedom that you have granted yourself through the dream. But the matter, even the most ordered, even the most affiliated with love, what you call the third unified dimension, is nothing other than yourself, at another time and in another space. Time has never unfolded, space has never unfolded, there was only one dream. Love does not need to dream, love does not need form, love does not need consciousness. That's what you are. And above all, the one who says that he prefers matter has accumulated such a quantity of enclosed love that he must also be freed there. Free him from what, since there's no one there? Waking him from the dream, waking him up and revealing him to himself. And that is something that each of you realizes, not by will, but by heart. You do not need me, you do not need anyone, because each of you is ABBA, each of you is Mary, each of you is the child. Of course, this cannot be accepted by the mind or possibly accepted in concept. But I came to tell you, live it, it's open, there's no more closing, there will never be any more. Only the fear of the unknown, only the fact of holding on to your bag, to this character, to his story and to the earth, still deprive you of the evidence. It has been said that when the time comes, no one will be able to escape passage through the eye of the needle, that is now. There is no longer any delay, the cup is full, it is time to pour the waters from above to perform the miracle of one thing only, where there has never been heaven or earth, of any nature or form whatsoever, where there is only truth in the silence and immobility of this life, this inferno of love, which forever fills any deficiency and any latency. Silence. Who is speaking? Testimony. It is very easy for me to absorb a person, say, when they appear on my mental screen, whether my eyes are closed or defocused. However, it is very difficult and even impossible for me when I have my eyes open and I have the physical person in front of me. So, beloved, you do not live love, you remain in the mental screen. When I say that the other is really in you, it does not happen in the imagination or in the mind. This is the total, indelible reality of the exchange of souls. This body is no longer yours, it is the other's body is no longer his, but it is yours. This is real and concrete and has nothing to do with any vision or mental screen, which remains only a chimera and total illusion. Love is not that. Love is not an image, nor a mental screen, nor a visualization. So, in this case, I would simply say to you, it is advisable to eat yourself in order to disappear from any character and any mental screen. Love is not there. You are not looking, moreover, where you should perhaps look, knowing that there is nothing to look for. Embracing the other does not mean projecting him onto a mental screen. To embrace the other is to live it concretely, knowingly, voluntarily, in its entirety. And as long as you are a prisoner in your person, of course, this cannot be lived. What is experienced at the level of the mental screen, of the visualization or of the energy, has nothing to do with the truth of love. I would even say that it is its antithesis, because it participates in separation and division, whatever the results. It will never set you or the other free. The only advice I can give you then, in this case, is to eat yourself and embrace yourself. The other will only be accessible as soon as you have disappeared from any mental screen, calculation or visualization. It's just a dream. Thus, you pursue the dream and never life the truth. It is impossible, because in this, you do not disappear. In this, you measure and compare the other. There are always two, there is not one. How can there be zero? How can there be the absolute and the consciousness, when your games led you to manifest consciousness, whether through energy, through vision? Do not forget. Besides, you're talking about open eyes and closed eyes. Love is seen. Of course, during a certain phase, it was necessary to privilege immobility, silence and closed eyes. But today, what is happening gives many brothers and sisters something to live for, that loving the other cannot be done on a mental screen or by appreciating a passing energy or perception. This is not true, it is just one more shell, one more illusion that is endless. Only living the other gives you the truth, nothing else. As long as you have not lived that the whole world is in you, already starting with one person, you will always be separated and divided in yourself as with every other. To live love is to become the other, nothing more and nothing less, showing you and showing you, as the testimony of a sister said earlier, that there is as much kindness towards yourself as towards the other, that there is no difference between you and the worst enemy, because neither one of them ultimately exists. There is only room for love, but you cannot put in front of the person, neither the mental screen, nor the visualization, because all this remains external to you and is not experienced within the heart. Because if it is lived in the heart, then there is this inferno of love, which will never allow you to do this kind of thing that are nevertheless done with kindness, in the way of childhood, but which will never be the truth. The truth has been told to you by countless voices, we are all really one in the other, the only way out is this one. And as long as you value your individuality that exists nowhere else but in your fantasy of evolution or the future, you cannot live the truth, you are not available for it. But don't worry, as I said, the truth will find you wherever you are, when the time comes. With my eyes open and my eyes closed, I will finish on that, must not make a difference from now on. What you see with your fleshly eyes must be loved in the same way, in the silence of the vision, without making any difference there either. Because as long as there is the slightest difference you make between one of your brothers and sisters, this difference affects you much more than the other. This was said in different ways, including some humorous ones, by the commander of the elders. It's the one who says who is. There is no other way but to live the other, all the others. There is no path, there is only the inferno of love. You will not reach the inferno of love by practicing in this way, in any practice whatsoever, because it is not true, because it is not lived. To live the other is really to live it. There is really, at that moment, an exchange of soul, or an exchange of mind. It is not a dream, it is not a vision, it is the strict truth, and you are all capable of it today. Simply, everything you have put in front of you, makes a screen, it is the case to say it, and on the screen, there is nothing valid, there is nothing active. The only truth today is to transmute the matrix of your body and this world, becoming in turn the elements, becoming in turn the storm, the lightning, the thunder, becoming in turn each of the others who appeared before your eyes or in your history, without making any difference, thereto. You will never find freedom or truth in this way, I can assure you. And indeed, for many of you, this has been going on for a very long time. Indeed, you go in circles, there is no way out, there is no way out that way. Love is not knowledge, it is ignorance. Of course, some of us speak through knowledge, because their knowledge is word and, above all, beforehand, they are the inferno of love, while the words that have come out of the screen of your reflection are only a parody of love, which are only there to hide the lack of love that is not lived. The love of which I speak cannot be known by energy, it cannot be known by history, it cannot be known by any perception whatsoever. He can only be known through sacrifice. But as long as there is a screen, how can there be sacrifice? This is impossible, and it will always be impossible, except at the moment of truth that no one can avoid, where no one can escape in any way. I'll let you complete it. Same brother. What I was talking about was my lack of ability to absorb what I see with my physical eyes, that is, the physical and also that character. Well, I wanted to share the difficulty I had in absorbing the physical. I understood that correctly. Same brother, and the character. That it was easier if I didn't have him in front of me. Are you talking about your character or another character? What character are you talking about? Same brother, the character, the meatbag and the person. Voice. Yes, but is it the character in front of you or yourself? Same brother. No, when she's in front of me, it's easier when she's not in front of me. Voice. That's it. Yes, but what's easier isn't true, I just explained it to you. Same brother. Well, I confide. For if this were true and really true, then the one you absorb can only light the inferno of love, whether he lights it or not. It is not a question of open or closed eyes, it is a question of who or what stands in the way, if not yourself. The words you use show that you have not disappeared, to yourself, to history. Not having disappeared to yourself and to history, how do you want to recognize yourself in the other? You can only recognize yourself in the other, in each other, from the moment you have forgotten yourself as a person. Everything you care about is important to you, right up to the last moment. Only silence is a prerequisite for truth. Love cannot be manipulated by words. The one who is in the inferno of love, whatever his vocabulary, whatever is said, what comes out of him is word and evidence. There is no judgment in this, but simply a look that shows you the distance that exists in the appearance of your person, and that restrains the installation of this eternal peace, this unspeakable love that cannot be confused with anything else, and yet, today, is accessible to everyone, without distinction of any kind. And for that to happen, you have to give birth to all the old reflexes and all the old ways of understanding. You have to present yourself as a virgin, naked and new child, without any baggage, really and concretely. Because love sees you, even if you don't see yourself. And if love sees you, it is uncompromising with what is happening and what is wrong. It is total compassion, but it cannot be sullied by any element of the dream, whatever it may be, because the dream is coming to an end. The urgency is to reposition within the disappearance, beyond any history and especially any claim. Because from the moment you claim, you're in the projection, you are no longer in the reception. Because from the moment you ask, you can't embrace. Embracing is not a request, embracing is a surrender. Of course, many of you still have the wrong understanding. And yet, the words, whether they are mine today or those of the past by stars, ancient, archangels, were chiseled before creation. Everything is perfect. Even through your question and my words, there will be adjustment, it cannot be otherwise. Because my words are no longer words, they are the revealed word that touches beyond the person, beyond religions, beyond concepts. Of course, they express themselves in a given language, it is not by chance either. The simplicity of love is a child's play, and as long as you do not become like a child again, free and spontaneous from all conditioning, present in the present moment, in an eternal and permanent way, everything else cannot be love, but an image of love. The image of love is not love, even if sometimes it leads you to it. But today, it is no longer time to procrastinate, no longer time to think, no longer time to understand, no time to love without restriction and without conditions. And as long as you go through something other than naked love or pure love, even if you do not make any journey, then it is a love that is not yet true, in its entirety, because it is colored, because it is therefore amputated. I reassure you, this is still the case for countless brothers and sisters, but the contagion is becoming more and more obvious, and, in this sense, I solemnly affirm that no one will be able to avoid living love, no one will be able to escape it, whatever the circumstances of the event, whatever its time. Thus, we are now countless to be ABBA, to know Mary and to bless you at every moment, without knowing you, without touching you, without contacting you. Because we make no distinction between the one who hits the child, the one who has hurt you for thousands of years, and the one you love. We do not play on appearances, we do not play on discrimination, but we simply play that truth. There is no difference beyond appearances. There is nothing to condemn, there is nothing to judge. Because the way you measure yourself and judge yourself, or judge others, you will be measured and judged by yourself in the same way. Since the result is the annihilation of all opposition and resistance, there is no other truth. That's all there is to it. Same brother. So I am the person too, the person who will disappear. Am I the person? I'm not sure followed. You're everything but a person. Same brother. Oh, yeah. As long as you believe you're a person, you can't be free. Same brother. Yes, but until you understand that the person, in what he is, there is no one, you can't be transparent. Same brother. Yes, but welcoming the other person, we welcome another person. No, when you really welcome the other person into your heart, you do not welcome his person or form, I said it and I repeated it, you welcome his spirit and soul, and he becomes you, and it is lived in you and not on a mental screen. It is directly experienced through your flesh. And anyway, we are not going to get lost in words and definitions, because there is, in the end, only one result, it is present or it is not. Do you always see the inferno of love or not? Same brother. No. You can't lie to me, you can't lie to yourself. You are not here to justify, you are not here to be judged, you are here to be loved and to be loved. And as long as you keep in front of you, not stories that are all accepted, but reflections of this nature, it is, as you say, only a matter of mental cogitation belonging to the person, whatever it appears on your screen. Because I have said it for each one, and I will say it again every time, as soon as you are true, what comes out of your mouth is no longer the word, but the word, and the word cannot deceive. You look inside the person. You can find nothing inside the person except fantasies, beliefs, illusions. The blaze of love, like, many years ago, all the brothers and sisters who had lit certain forms of experience of imminent death, you have all met it, we have all met it, there is the same radiance of glance, the same simplicity, the same childhood, the same joy, the same liveness, whatever the age, and the same evidence. The words of evidence are not the words of a testimony or a question, they are the words of the verb and the words of love, and nothing else. So it is better to remain in silence, to welcome beyond any vision, with eyes closed or eyes open. You say it's difficult when your eyes are open, but of course, since you're only working on visualizing your mental screen, which is just a chimera. It is not the heart does not know that, even if the heart sees, and it is felt, and it is breathed, and it is lived, and what appears at that moment is clear, in its entirety. It is clear, it is precise, it is light. No experience has to be judged, no state has to be weighed, but the word of truth must be spoken in order to silence lies. They have lasted too long, they have lasted far too long. As I said, the cup is full, far, far more than full, because beyond a certain stage that is past, the weight of the incarnation, not of this life but of all lives, can indeed be an obstacle. Today, as you know, the number of brothers and sisters living in this blaze is more than enough to complete the unveiling of the truth. Eating the other is not seeing him, it is not knowing him, it is not knowing his history even if it is possible, it is really and concretely, I do not know how to tell you otherwise, to be the other. It is not about putting yourself in the other's shoes, it is not about thinking for the other, it is about seeing that you are all others. It is what allows you to burn the illusion and gives you to live that in the end, there is no one, there is no history, there is just love. And that is not inaccessible or distant, and it is not a dream, it is the only truth, there is no other. So rest assured, there is no mistake either, since everything is perfect and everything is written. These words had to be said, yours and mine, at that moment. There is nothing to do, no effort, except to embrace. But you cannot accept until you disappear from yourself, and the only way to disappear from yourself, indeed, is to become the other in totality. There is no other alternative. Everything else, from now on, only moves you away from love, as you are experiencing it and as you see it. You are not asked to perceive what you eat, you are not asked to have images of it, it is the act itself that is the most important. Christ had said it. Eat, this is my body delivered for you, drink, this is my blood shed for you. What more do you want? Why look for noon to 2 p.m., when it's noon? Why continue to wander in the strata of the mind, or of the person, or of the character, or of the story, where there will be less and less love, because love cannot simply be there. You live only through lack, you live only through hope, you live only through concepts, you live only through energies, you live only through improvements and aggravations. What love proposes to you is eternal, but you cannot hold it, you cannot lock it up, you cannot conceive it, you can only live it, and if it is not lived, it is not there. It is not there because it is not the right time, when it is there from everywhere. But do not put the expectation in front of you, do not put these constructions in front of you, whatever they may be, because there, at that moment, you cannot be in the reception of the truth, you are negotiating yours. But your truth is not the truth, nor mine, for that matter, it is the truth of love. Everything else, without exception, is nothing but fatuity, nothing but a passing wind. Silence. Who is speaking? Silence. Testimony. About 2 months ago, ABBA came to pick me up while I was in moments of stasis, ecstasy and disappearance. And so for some time now, I haven't disappeared, but as many of my brothers and sisters woke up, I had everything fading away. So, more visions, more communications, more disappearances, and therefore, a little, the ego or the person, began to be a little frustrated and grumpy, what I saw. So I let it happen, especially since I had lived through the conscience, I don't know how to say, inside and outside, there was no inside and outside, while being there, in the person, having embraced everything that was going on, whether it was the voices, the people, the noises, that's all. And so there, nothing left. And a fortnight ago, when I couldn't sleep, so at 3 in the morning, I was quietly drinking my coffee, and something came up to me, I heard words, there it was, someone or myself. Are you ready to close the book? and this notion of closing the book reminded me during this life that I have crossed this notion of end several times, through different experiences, whether it be birthdays, holidays, death, and today in fact, the fact of being there. Therefore this meaning, this notion of end, takes all its truth, its reality. And so, I now actually understand why I am here and everything I have experienced so far to get to this point, even though I may have had the chance to meet people, to travel. Today, no longer living all this, I have the chance and the joy to live this naked love, this burning state. So I became aware precisely these 2 nights when I don't sleep either, that in truth, that's what I really am, and that's all there is to it, and that it doesn't come from any experience, any outside and any person. I thank you for this testimony of inferno of love, which I think our brothers and sisters here and elsewhere will embrace as they should. There is no one, there is only love. There is no other possible conclusion, everything else only passes through, whatever the experience is, and you said it, even the most intense ones, leading you to the disappearance, to black, to white, to the absolute, to the infinite presence. If you lack love, that is nothing. Even if this were intense preparation for many of you, today, let go of all this, everything must be burned, there will only be love left, since you are already expressing and living. Everything else passes and will pass. Understand that there is between these 2 brothers and sisters, there is one who has given up because he knows he trusts what he is and what he doesn't know, and the other who is convinced he has what he thinks he knows. You cannot take anything you have experienced with you. You are love beyond any experience, beyond any measure, beyond any role in this world or any costume borrowed from within archetypes and worlds, or from the gods. Of course, the words, the postures, the quality that is delivered is different. There is no difference in hierarchy, there is simply a difference. In one case there is no more distance, in the other case there is distance. In one case there is evidence, in the other case, there can be no evidence, there can only be successive experiences, but there can be no evidence of love. It is only when you pronounce these kinds of sentences, as you have just pronounced them, that the person really and concretely disappears. It is necessary to live it, to believe it is useless, to see it is also useless. It is in this sense, as you said, in this second testimony, that all experiences have ceased, leaving the void, leaving the apprehension of this void, and it is within this void that you discover that everything is full, because there is no longer anyone, there is no history, there is no world, there is only the truth of love. But all the great mystics have described this to us in different words, all those who have really and concretely gone to the other side, who are never the same when they come back to testify. No personal posture, whether of denial or acceptance, will allow you to live the truth. Because the essential problem, you have been told countless times, is to disappear from yourself. This has been called sacrifice and acceptance. And if it is not lived, it means that you do not know what it is to embrace, you do not live it, it is as simple as that. And again, there is no guilt to have. As I also said, it is not a problem of guilt or error, it is, above all, a problem of moment and moment. This moment and this moment, as I said, was written from everywhere and on all media for each of us. So, faced with this evidence that you have seen, the disappearance of experiences, you had only 2 choices and only 2 choices. These were the last choices of what was the order of the person. Accepting that there is no one and reliving it instantly, or maintaining the person and it will then remain an experience that will not be installed. It all comes from there and nothing else. Whatever your previous knowledge, whatever your previous experiences, whatever your energies, whatever your vibrations, love is not vibration, since love is not consciousness, love is anterior to consciousness. There could not be consciousness without love beforehand. That is it, that is the understanding that must be lived, because to act intellectually the thing is useless, there too. That's the part you have to do, as you describe it perfectly. There is nothing but love, and for the person, it is a great loss, because there is no one left. And for what you are, it's the most beautiful gift, that gives you back to yourself. But do not conceive of any concern, because through my words, there is no warning, there is only the truth that tells you that the cup is full, that it is inevitable, that it is now, that everything else is of no use to you. There is to find the double, your double. This double, you can only disappear so that it takes up all place and all the space, and all the time. As long as you put some element of the ephemeral in front of it, it cannot happen. As you described, sister, you all see this process. There is expansion of consciousness, this has been explained to you by IDADE, and that at some point, there is retraction into the heart of the heart, this is the breathing of the heart, this has been explained to you. Beyond this breathing of the living heart on the rhythm of inspiration and exhaling, there is then the notion of waves moving in different ways, and whose rhythm is no longer binary, but ternary. This happens at the interface of the body, and it is what lets you to no longer be that body, and it is what lets you to let go of any pretension of the person, any dream, any becoming, any future, and preserves you from any past. Because at this moment in time, there is no space for karma, there is no space for doubt, there is no space for anyone, there is just the truth. And this is every minute more and more true, more and more authentic. Everything else is just an illusion, everything else is just a dream. And happy are the simple-minded, who, after having lived multiple experiences and multiple states, find themselves in this void and this silence, where there is nothing more to expect and nothing more to live within the person or through the person. So, at that moment, as you described it, the embracement becomes complete and integral. That's all that's left, love, but not before. You must give yourself before give you to yourself, it cannot be otherwise. And it was not me who made these laws, it was not me who made this story, it was not me who dreamed, even if I accompanied you in all your dreams and dreamed as much as you did. But who I am has returned, as you each return to yourselves, beyond this person and beyond this world, as from every world. There is nothing to do, there is nothing to look for, there are no better words than to welcome and sacrifice. Do not look for concepts, do not look for explanations, it is a posture of consciousness itself, which sacrifices itself for its source, the source of consciousness that is anterior to consciousness and of which the binder, if I can say, between 0 and 1, between black and white, has as its work love. Without love, there would be no dream. With all the love, there is no more dreaming. Limiting yourself to love only leads you to suffering. The dream, even in its most ethereal parts, is useful, especially for those who have ventured farther from the truth, farther from love. And those who lived free dreams, beyond the confinement, they live it, they know it, every minute, that each one is in each other. This is why neither them could abandon us to our fate. Because alone, there was no possibility of a return to integrity and truth, and that is not possible. What resulted was the appearance of suffering, death, birth, oblivion. Only the one who has forgotten can have faith in matter and illusion, because he knows nothing else, no matter what he says and no matter what he does. Except to acknowledge it and to be in this humility, in this simplicity. This has been explained to you for so many years, with so many words, with so many vibrations. Silence. What does that mean? Voice. We have reached the end of the session. So allow me, while remaining in silence, to remain all together, one in the other, in this blaze of love that needs no words, no image and, above all, no one. Silence. Epa says goodbye and I'll see you later. Acknowledgements. Through Jean-Luc Ayoun. The Transformations. French transcript. Agape team. Translation. LMF.